What are we doing in that changed over the last 10 years that's actually benefiting our youngers nowadays?
We've dropped them out. There's a generational gap. How are old foots like me communicating with young people? By and large, we're not, are we? So one of the first things I did about 3 years ago was went to Link Gang in Hyde Park because I wanted to know young people.
Yeah.
And I'm an old foot. I don't pretend, I'm not coming to you talking about ends or doing these impersonations that old nigger knees do. It's a waste of time. I won't respect a man who's coming around me, lowering his IQ and his delivery when I want to make the bridge from where I am to where he is. But the key was to look for those from a similar ilk to deliver our intellectual capital to them. But do you know the same thing? You got to remember, if all authority is self-imposed and they've got all the money, all the organization, all the infrastructure, plus the paramilitary service to carry it out, know that it's already going down in Chinatown and that this is based on a model from 1945. What we are really supposed to be doing is taking control of the thing that we can take control of. And that is ourself and a peer base that we can rely on to be organizing. There are these old-fashioned things called phone trees. Remember, you can lock off social media in a heartbeat. The whole reason, I will tell you that one of my mentees has been working on the cryptocurrency for the Bank of England for the past 2 years. So that's going to be here in 2021. So the first reason they were demonizing all the cryptocurrencies that give you sovereignty because they're blind, and you can send as much as you want wherever you want and transact how you like as a sovereign under God with your inalienable rights, was so that they could flop every one of those cryptocurrencies, because whoever has a cryptocurrency, when Chase Manhattan re-released the dollar and the Bank of England re-released the pound, will be the power and the glory. So we have a cryptocurrency called Sable Ascent. We have the ability to circumvent what they're bringing, but we don't have mass adoption based on the fear. We don't identify our tribe. So our role right now is to identify our tribe and not live in a mandate of fear. If you live in a paradigm of fear, just stay away from me. Do your thing and God bless you. Kurt Cobain.
And if I can get 1, 2, 5, 10, that's 5, that's 10 more people than that would have done it, that wouldn't have done it. You know what I mean? That's better than nothing. You know what I mean? So
Well, you're 100% right, D man, saying about we need to like find our peers now. This is the time when we really need to find our peers, man, and start building something which is gonna change the opportunities for us or for our kids, basically.
a proper,
that is very
a proper
important.
support group of peers, not just like a peer group. You know what I mean? Because anyone can have a peer group.
Yeah,
it's got to be obviously a support group. You know what I mean? Not just a peer group, but a support group. You know what I mean?
Just like what you got, D, like to say with your dads on Sunday, you're doing your martial arts and that. That's absolutely fantastic, man, because it's not only keeping you fit and keeping your mind clear, you're actually talking about stuff which is so relative, and you're actually making things happen for the future, which is extremely like fantastic, man. I wish I could get more involved with stuff like that, man. But yeah.
But do you know the thing? We can. Anybody can start them, because I don't belong to one of those groups. Those male peer groups, I belong to 4 or 5 of those male peer groups. And I set up an organization called ADPAC, which is specifically for African diasporans in Britain. That's adpac.net. So that those of a similar ilk who desire to be separate but equal, based on the social experiment that's taken place over the course of the Windrush generation, that's 71 years. Imagine 70 years of the anniversary, and the thing they did was kidnap us, rob the pensions, rob the bank accounts, calling them dormant funds, and send people home to dead. Now, these people are symbolic. If you didn't learn a key lesson from that, and you're still appealing to people's decency, you're gonna do that by yourself. What I saw coming 4 years ago was one, an economic tsunami, because we knew it was right on track. I didn't know the ancestors were going to press pause on planet Earth for Africans to catch up, but that's how I look at it. We have parity with every other race. We don't have the same assets, we don't have the same capital, but if we organize like everybody organizes from today, we got exactly the same opportunities ahead of us. I don't know what you're waiting for, but I'm not.
I hear that. I hear that.
Cool.
Right.
Demonstration is key.
Yeah, consistent demonstration, mate. Consistent demonstration. Right, that's good look. Was there anything else with vaccinations? I thought we wanted to talk about liability as well.
Yeah, as I said, they want to waive liability, don't they? Which is crazy to me, innit? Like, I see it as this, innit? If you've got a pharmaceutical company, yeah, name. There's Big Pharma, it's massive. There's so many. Name one if you want. Yeah, so if you've got one of those and they don't deem it fit enough to help people, they're not going to license it, right? So if they're talking about, even though it's temporary unlicensed, it's perfectly safe and we can do this out. If it's perfectly safe to you and you're willing to roll it out to the public, why are you waiving liability? Why? Just someone answer me that question. Don't worry, I will wait. You know what I mean? I don't mind waiting for an answer, but I want an answer though, innit? Like,
that's the job of the lobbyists.
You know what I mean? Like,
who pays the piper calls the tune. You got to remember, right now, Blighty is broke, on his knees, willing to do whatever you unzip. So when Big Pharma turns up with a big check and says, we're going to make all of this money from this thing, and there's taxable revenue in there, the lobbyists come to the table is the first thing. Listen, if people drop out, there's going to be lawsuits. This is a real thing. And we can legislate this because you're our pals. The same way, do you think supermarkets were suffering when they said they're going to charge 5p for a carrier bag? Lord Sainsbury's went to his Labour brethren, said, listen, there's an M for your campaign. I just love if we could underwrite through legislation the capital I'm spending on carrier bags right now. So what kind of thing we talking about? I don't know, son, 5, 10p? Every minute can make a buck. Like we say, every penny counts, don't it? So it's the same with Big Pharma, because if I earn 50 grand a year, I'm suing you for X amount of times my wages. Now you put that in the general populace, so what's the first thing they're going to do? They send the lobbyists, the government, on their knees and broke. They're bereft of ideas and they got no P. So what are they going to say? Yes.
Yeah.
As I said, they're creating mad chaos right now, and as I said, there's always order out of chaos, man. So
absolutely, because it's a reset, and it's inevitable that their previous system is going to fall. What they're doing is bringing through a new system when that system drops. But are we ready to compete? Because we live in a race-based global economy where African diasporan people are the only people who don't have a lane in that track, because traditionally we rely on our adversaries. So if you say this is a relay race, education is a leg. The boy them and the military is a leg. Media propaganda is a leg. Economics is a leg. Which one of those 4 legs of the race are we competing in? None.
Yeah, well, I get that. I do hear that. And if there is, they are kind of, it is, we've said this before, like on a show before, when it comes to like, even with the BLM stuff and that, it is about getting certain people in certain places of power in it, but it's just going to be hard to get them there. You know what I mean?
It's all planning. Because you can have your 5th column everywhere, and no, there are those of a similar ilk at the highest echelons of every single corporation they have. But are we preparing those who need to go in with the right mindset so they can't be nobbled.
Yep.
It's just a decision.
Yep. Very interesting. Very interesting. Right. So, talking about from where you're just talking about, actually, it's quite a good segue about the future, the future of us. So we basically have to make sure that the next generation are ready to hit hard and be resilient. We already know how hard it was for us coming up, and now times are 10 times harder with all this social media and, you know, smartphones and all the rest of it. So the youngsters are very key to a better future. So I mean, in that, what are we doing in that changed over the last 10 years that's actually benefiting our youngers nowadays?
We've dropped them out. There's a generational gap. How are old foots like me communicating with young people? By and large, we're not, are we? So one of the first things I did about 3 years ago was went to Link Gang in Hyde Park because I wanted to know young people.
Yeah.
And I'm an old foot. I don't pretend, I'm not coming to you talking about ends or doing these impersonations that old nigger knees do. It's a waste of time. I won't respect a man who's coming around me, lowering his IQ and his delivery when I want to make the bridge from where I am to where he is. But the key was to look for those from a similar ilk to deliver our intellectual capital to them. And there's guys who made the transfer from there. I've got a brother working on the program on my leadership program who was a key player in Gang because he's capable. He's got the intellectual capital. Don't make a mistake that when you come from the road, one thing you have that entrepreneurs have, that businesses have, is your ability to solve problems and a devious nature to conceal your intentions. Now, what Europeans do that we don't, because we just have to present how smart we are, is they conceal their intentions, but we don't. And that's why they know everything about us. They can map and track us because we offer it willingly. And although we are part of society, we don't act as a society, but societies run society. True?
Very true.
I don't know why. I do believe that we can. I do believe
I like that.
we, us as a community, as a black people, or as a BAME community, as people like to put it, you know what I mean, can add to society. Though I just think it's hard. I just think it's hard to get into them places. That's I just think it's hard to try and get there. Even though, as you said, it might not be hard because it's a certain mindset and it's the way you do that. And obviously, it's getting that group of, as you say, the similar ilk. You know what I mean, to get you to help you get to places. You know what I mean? But still, there are still people of power that are still creating obstacles, which will stop more than just one person.
You
They
know
can
what,
stop a whole community of people.
King, when we're talking about those guys, we may say the Trevor Phillips of the world, the Tony Sewell. We talk about the classic coon, no problem. We're not talking about them. I'm telling you, I've got 6,300 professional African diaspora contacts on LinkedIn. And we go across every single area of industry. For the past 4 years, all I do is take people out to lunch, create networks. My network is now a living, breathing beast where I introduce right-thinking people to right-thinking people 7 days a week and solve problems 8 hours a day. So off the back of that, I realized that it was bigger than me because a man can't keep track of all that. It required an institution. So I went about putting the structures of that together, finding delivery partners. And where a lot of people can't tell you that we exist in all of these little niches and veins, I did a load of Zoom calls over the first 3 months of the so-called lockdown, what I call self-isolation. Professional black networks, NFL, KPMG, Goldman Sachs, Accenture, everybody's black. So even when I put my program up on LinkedIn, they're all reaching out to me because they want to mentor the young men on my leadership program in specific areas of industry. So where there is a hidden economy for the vast majority of us, I know we exist. And the key is that sometimes we'll look off the corporates saying, oh, they don't do this and they're coons and what. They're not. They're just professionals. And then down here, there are people with very effective grassroots programs where there's no money. Somebody's got to be a translator to connect those dots. But then if we've got a dearth of leadership, effective leadership, because a man can call himself anything. You can see a 6'5" man with hands the size of my back that is using a women's toilet. I disagree, but that's not within my power to stop him any more than it is to stop my missus changing her hair. So once we understand there's a dearth of effective leadership, make a decision. We are gonna just put in a nutshell 100 odd years of experience, create a curriculum for a structured, effective leadership program and start with 20. Right, who's gonna pay for it? Boom, we found the capital to pay for it. We've got our building, we've got our trainers, we've got our program, we've got our mandate, let's go. Not too much talk, just action, action, action. So what we require is the young people, because there's a generational gap that we've allowed to happen because we feel too hot in our own egos. I want to done that.
Yeah, no, I understand that. But don't you think there are certain people that just have that mentality anyway because of what they see either on the media or what they've seen, maybe if they go in their cars and they're driving down a road that maybe they should be driving down just to get somewhere, and they see something out of turn and they see the color of the person's skin or something like that, and they're a person of power, and then all of a sudden someone will come in wanting to either get to that level or get even near that level, but because they've got the power and what they've seen, they're like, well, I don't want someone like that, because there are people like that in power.
King, they ain't got any power. Let me say something to you now. The beauty of the professional black networks. When they take people under their wings, the whole point of a leadership training is not to announce yourself and say, I've come to change the system. It's to conceal your intentions, which is part of training, and infiltrate. You are now going to be trained by somebody who's in the house, who has sympathies with what we are doing. Play the game. I keep saying this a game, but it's not child's play. You know, like when they fling knives, I give them, but it ain't child's play.
Yeah, I hear that.
Every game has rules.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, for real.
That's right.
I hear that.
I hear that too, mate. I hear that too. But yeah, but that's a real good look. Definitely education is key. Leadership. I mean, with leadership comes a lot. And it's great that it's happening a lot more now. And I suppose now we've got the technology, it should be a lot more easier to get the information across, get people involved, actions happening and all the rest of it.
You know the thing we do? We act deaf, dumb and blind. Like we forget our own experiences. Remember your experiences in school. Remember your experience with whatever career you had envisaged at 7 years old and what help you didn't get. All we're doing is fill in the gaps. It's not rocket science.
Yeah.
So the thing to champion is identify your tribe. There's nobody in your way. They're lampposts. When the last time anybody on the panel bumped into a lamppost? They're not in your way.
Yeah.
They represent themselves as lampposts. Walk around them. Walk to the left, walk to the right. They're not in your way. And then identify your tribe in any building that you want to get in the door. They're going to open the door because it's only a combination, right? And they know the combination that you don't. The question I always ask is, when you got your begging bowl out, did you actually think about how I can serve the person that I want help from? Because whenever I meet anybody, I've already looked at them and I'm listening keenly and I'm waiting for their need. And they always tell me, And you know what I make sure I do? I make sure I got the solution on hand. People are always telling you what they want. Did you actually think to be serving the person that you're seeking help from? To make yourself necessary at the feeding table. So when some of us are saying, boy, there's people, they're gatekeepers. Nah, feeders feed feeders. Because everybody's trading. And in the common market, we're not talking about capitalism now. In the common market, you can't come with a begging bowl. If you're checking a man for your water, you better have a chicken or a carrot or something. And you know when the Brazilian economy, Portuguese economy broke down, you know what they did? When the banks were shut, they set up the trading stores because everybody became a trader to survive. But because we feel England isn't going to get invaded anytime soon and we feel safe, we don't have to evolve our intellectual capital. We don't have to evolve our skill sets every 6 months because we feel safe. But you know what? All those people who feel safe, AI is going to make their role redundant. And they're not going to know whether to shit or go blind.
Yeah, that is going to be a scary notion for a lot of people, isn't it? When they decide to start spray AI around into certain jobs, and then remember, in certain places around the world, they've already made it an all AI service. There's no longer humans working in places. Amazon want to make shops where there's no staff. You go in and just pick your stuff up. You know what I mean?
And they're one of the only companies with capital to rent high street shops.
Yeah.
I just closed my shop of 10 years because the rent's going up 10 grand.
Wow.
That's
wow. See, that just feels to me like, even though like things like Amazon and companies like that are just trying to put the small businesses, because that's what they'll be classed as to someone like Amazon anyway. You know what I mean? And places like that. So like the small businesses are either getting bought out if they're a good enough business, or they're putting the rent up so high. You know what I mean? Or they're putting the lease up so high. You know what I mean? That you can't pay it no more and you have to shut down. You know what I mean? Which it's crazy. You know what I mean? How is that helping small businesses in any sort of way? I mean, especially with their tax thing as well, where they don't really pay tax as well. That makes them more it gives them more resources to do what they're doing. I won't even use the word powerful. I'll just say it will give them more resources to do what they're doing.
We spoke about lobbying, and you got to imagine, what do 1,000 small businesses or micro businesses represent in taxation compared to a beast like Amazon, just off the back of their PAYE tax? Their PAYE is wiping out all that taxation. So nobody's worried about you. And now that's why when we talk about lobbying, capitalism, people say, oh, good capitalism. There is no good capitalism. It's exploitative. Now, the common market is a different beast. We've always had cowrie shells, some form of exchange for a service or goods. Capitalism is a different beast. It's purely exploitative.
Because capitalism deals with corporations. It don't just deal with things. It deals with corporations, don't it?
It does, but it's not even the fact that it deals with corporations. Because remember, we were sold by corporations less than 200 years ago. So taking that into account, it was created off our backs by insuring the ships, by insuring us as a people, by creating a market where we were traded. That was capitalism. It was an exploitative marketplace that was created off our back. Because when it was a free market, irrespective of your ethnicity, your intellect,
your background,
you could come to market with parity. But then it was a wrap after that. After we were sold, it was a wrap. Now, England is a country that was originally serfs and landowners. Serfs were indentured servants based on what they owed, because it wasn't feasible for them to live without relying on the landowners. To eat, to live, no problem. But they weren't slaves. Don't get slavery twisted with when you got these Irish cats talking, listen, your mum wore money and you stayed there because you're an idiot and you didn't know any better. You could have cut. We were below serfs as slaves, and they've got all of the infrastructure to return us right back to that system. They've got all of the civil police force, which is basically a paramilitary force. They've got all of the structures, and the vast majority of us are wholly dependent on our adversaries for our livelihood. So which part couldn't we return to that? So if we don't start to create a generation of effective leadership to infiltrate all these roles with a specific type of thinking, which is based on our interests, then we could go back to that thing in 30 seconds. It's not just Libya. It's not just because Saudi Arabia is all the way over there. This is the bitch that started the whole thing. Barbados is where they mastered that bitch. It was a slave economy. Not like they had slaves. It was a slave economy. And where America learned to master slavery was from Barbados. Simple things.
Okay.
Don't get too comfortable and complacent now.
It's a lot of great information I didn't know myself, man. That's a good look.
It wasn't a good look, though.
No, it wasn't a good look. No, man. And you're 100% right, man. Don't get too comfortable, car. Like you're saying, these people, they've had to learn to adapt every 6 months, man, or every 3 months, or every week. That in itself is such a skill a human being needs. Us Westerners, well, not us as in me and you, but the Westerners
I'm doing it, bro.
don't have that. They're like, once something completely changes, that's it. They crumble. They don't know how to deal with it. It's a madness. And recently, obviously, over the last 2 years, the amount of changes that's happened has been unbelievable. Unbelievable. Changes within weeks, within months of each other. So, yeah, man. Like you're saying, man, all about adapting, definitely, as well, man. Help yourselves, everyone. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe. Press this button here right now. Jeez.
Yo, press this big red button.
Press this button. Here.
Button. Red one.